Hello, students. Welcome to the second lecture on The Rule of the Road by A.G. Gardiner. In our previous lecture, I had discussed with you certain things related to the author, that he was a journalist, a social critic who wrote to focus on some of the day-to-day and commonplace issues which bordered society of his times, his contemporary society in general. So today in this chapter, The Rule of the Road, which is an essay, Gardiner elaborates his ideas on the side effects of liberty, how liberty can sometimes lead to social anarchy, and why rules are necessary to keep a balance between individual liberty and social order. So let us start with the lesson on the rule of the road by A.G. Gardiner. A stout old lady was walking with a basket down the middle of a street in Petrograd, to the great confusion of the traffic and with no small peril to herself. So the essay, it starts with an illustration. Illustration means it's an example, or it's maybe the author's personal experience of having been in Petrograd and noticing that an old lady, what she was trying to do, this lady, this woman who was old enough, hence unsteady, she was walking down the middle of a street in a place called Petrograd. Now let me tell you, Petrograd or St. Petersburg, it is a city situated in Russia, a very busy city, and it's known for its multiplexes, it's known for that famous church, okay, and it is the hub, it is the center of trade, commerce, business, and it's a place where transportation is at its height, okay. And in this particular street, in one of the streets situated in Petrograd, this lady, what she was trying to do, she was attempting to cross the road, which was very, very busy. This had caused great confusion among the traffic users, the cab drivers, the other passerbys. It was as well very perilous to herself. Peril means danger. Okay, it was a risk to the life of this old lady. It could have led to an accident as well. So it was pointed out to her that the pavement was a place for foot passengers. But she replied, "I am going to walk where I like. We have got liberty now." You might have noticed a pavement. What is a pavement? The small footpath that is that is constructed just by the side of the main road. Okay, this is a footpath or a sidewalk, as you can see in the image given here. And a pedestrian refers to a walker or a person on foot. Anybody who is not using a vehicle and rather walking or moving on foot, he's called a pedestrian. He or she is called a pedestrian, right? So the footpaths or sidewalks, these are actually constructed for the use of a pedestrian. But here, when a gentleman or some person requests this lady that she should have better used the footpath or the sidewalk, she very haughtily replies that I am going to walk where I like. We have got liberty now. Earlier they were in captivity. Now we have democracy. We have freedom now. We are no longer under monarchy, she says. This is a reference to the shift in government that occurred in Russia during the time. Okay, earlier Russia was under the rule of the Stuarts and the monarchy. Okay, that means kings used to rule. But after it has been replaced by a government which totally removed monarchy, people started enjoying this newly achieved liberty, just like this old woman. That's why she very haughtily replies that we have got liberty now. Now we are free, and I'm going to walk wherever I like. Okay, but is it okay for her to say this? Just because you have liberty, do you have the right to walk wherever you like, especially on a busy street? Of course not. It's true that liberty, it's desirable to one and all. We all love to be in a state of liberty. Liberty is our birthright. Just look at the image of these birds flying out of the cage. How happy they are, flying out free in the sky, the free air. But there is a difference between the world of these creatures and the world of human. We all live in a society. After all, it's not a free sky. In order to enjoy our liberty, we must also be ready to give up some amount of our liberty. Yes, liberty is a human right. We have the liberty, we have the freedom to speech, we have the freedom to religion, we have the freedom to education, thought, press, information, movements as such. There have been many philosophies regarding liberty, many philosophers talking by and large about liberty. For example, if we take the example of our own Indian philosophers, there was Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who is also popular as Lokmanya Tilak. He had said during the Swaraj movement that freedom is my birthright. So long as it is awake within me, I am not old. So freedom is something that is that an individual earns at the start of his birth or the start of his life. The moment he is into this world, he already is born with that set of liberty, the liberty to exist as an individual. Not only Gangadhar Tilak, not only our Indian philosophers, even philosophers like Benjamin Franklin, he had mentioned how freedom or liberty is not something that is bestowed upon us by other people or other men. Rather, it is a right that belongs rightfully to every one of us individually. It is a gift that is handed down to us by supernatural, or you can call it nature and God. It is naturally gifted, right? But then there is also an other side to the coin. The liberties of none are safe unless the liberties of all are protected. So said William O. Douglas once upon a time. He was also an eminent philosopher, politician, diplomat. He told so. And indeed, it is true that if our liberties are not protected, if the liberties of every single individual is not protected, the liberties of none are safe. You cannot feel safe. This old woman that A.J. Gardiner had given example, She had her share of liberty, and it is correct that yes, she was a free person. But then, isn't her action posing a threat to the liberties of other people on the road? Yes, it is. So, the author writes here that it did not occur to the dear old lady that if liberty entitled means if liberty offered or allowed the foot passengers to walk down the middle of the road, it also entitled the cab driver means taxi driver, to drive on the pavement, and that the end of such liberty would be universal chaos. What is the meaning of universal chaos? There will be a state of unruliness, lawlessness, disturbance, confusion. Everything, it would be spreading. One car coming to a halt, the car behind it coming to a halt, the next car again behind a halt. So everything, the entire setup in that traffic, it would come to a halt, it would come to a chaotic position. That's what we refer to as a traffic jam. Just because a single car or a single individual commits this kind of a mistake on road, you might have noticed that very frequently in your own places, in your own home, in our own streets. You might have noticed how the unruliness, the excessive use of liberty by one individual becomes a cause of trouble for the rest of the people who also must have an equal share in liberty. Isn't that so? Right? So, the author again writes that everybody would be getting in everybody else's way. How this universal chaos, universal disturbance would be created? Because everybody would be getting in everybody else's way and nobody would get anywhere. Everybody would be stuck. Suppose you are in a hurry, yet you would be compelled to stop there and be in this mess. So, individual liberty, that which we call individual liberty, that would have become social anarchy. Okay, this kind of an excessive or misuse of liberty can also be the cause of social anarchy. Please highlight this sentence. Individual liberty, personal liberty, the liberty which is which belongs to every one of us. This liberty that the old woman was talking about, this would turn the entire society into a state of anarchy. What is anarchy? A state of disorder, as you can see in this picture. How the traffic jam is causing and posing problem for everyone in the traffic or on the road. So this is something that we don't expect. We don't want it to happen in our society. There is a danger of the world getting liberty drunk in these days, like the old lady with the basket. And it is just as well to remind ourselves of what the rule of the road means. It means that in order that the liberties of all may be preserved, the liberties of everybody must be curtailed. Curtailed means reduced, restricted. So what is the author trying to say? Liberty is a new got term. It evolved with the change in government setup, the system of government, the constitutional changes that occurred in the modern era, especially with the birth of democracy. Okay, liberty as such is a new concept, and it has been noticed that during A.G. Gardiner's time, he might have noticed that liberty, since it is something new, it is also misused, and there is a tendency of people getting liberty drunk. Liberty drunk means when you don't have control over your use of liberty. You don't know how to harness liberty. You keep on using liberty excessively, which becomes at times very dangerous for yourself as well as for the society. So, in these days, like the old lady, many other people in the world, they are getting liberty drunk. But in such time as this, the author writes, the essayist writes, it is very, very important to remind ourselves what is the meaning behind the rule of the road. Can you see this picture? This is an image of an Indian city where you can see traffic, busy, hectic traffic, passengers, pedestrians, cars, buses, autos, trucks, all moving in the same place in the middle of the road. How chaotic. There is no semblance at all. The second picture, one of the international roadways, and look at it. How disciplined, how organized it is. And how is it possible? It is possible because here the people are insisting, the people are following the rules of the road. Rules of the road refers to the various traffic signs or signals that we must follow when we are on the road, we are using the road. Okay? And why are these rules important? They are important because they would stop us from creating a chaotic situation in the traffic. Right? But this woman, she did not understand the meaning of the rule of the road. Just like on the road, it is necessary that in our social living conditions, we must follow a set of rules, written or unwritten. Right? So the author again writes, he adds up, when the policemen, say at Piccadilly Circus, steps into the middle of the road and puts out his hand, he is a symbol not of tyranny but of liberty. Piccadilly Circus, this is a map showing, you can find it out in Google Maps also, that will show you the actual Piccadilly Circus, how it looks or how busy the place is. The other picture sharing a still photograph of Piccadilly Circus, London. It is a very, very busy, just like Petrograd. Piccadilly Circus is also a very busy center where a number of roads, they amalgamate, they intermingle. Lots of lanes and roads coming together, turns and twists and turns. Okay, so it becomes a hub of Londoners' life, you can call it. But suppose you are on Piccadilly Circus and the traffic policeman, suddenly you are driving along Piccadilly Circus and the traffic policeman, what he does, he comes in between and he stops you, puts out his hand and stops you. Here, he's not acting like a tyrant. Tyranny means monarchy. Tyranny is a state where you are compelled to follow the rules, the ideas, the orders of one head, one solitary head. You have no individual right of your own. So this policeman here, the traffic policeman here, he's not the symbol, he's not trying to be a tyrant, but he's trying to secure the liberties of one and all. But you may not think so. You may, being in a hurry and seeing your motor car stopped by this insolence of office, feel that your liberty has been violated. You might be very, very angry and frustrated, seeing how insolently, how, in an arrogant manner, this person, this policeman, he is behaving. He's not showing respect to your liberty. You might think so. You might also curse him, saying that he is behaving in an aggressive manner, just like a tyrant, doing whatever he wants. But you must always remember that this policeman, he is not trying to force you to do something. Rather, he is trying to manage or maintain liberty of one and all on the road. But then you might be thinking, how dare this fellow interfere with your free use of the public highway? Then, if you are a reasonable person, you will reflect that if he did not interfere with you, he would interfere with no one. And the result would be you would never cross Piccadilly Circus at all. So, on the other hand, if you are actually a reasonable person, if you have logic enough, then you would probably understand that if this man did not stop you, that means he did not have the right to stop other people as well. And as a result, what would be the situation? What would be the condition? You won't be able to cross the street, one of the busiest streets of London, Piccadilly Circus. You would be lost, you would be fixed in a traffic jam. So, in a way, what is the policeman trying to do? He is actually trying to help you by stopping you and stopping others. He's not only stopping you, he's also trying to stop others, and that way he's trying to safeguard the rights, liabilities and liberty of one and all in usage of the public highway, right? You have submitted to a curtailment of private liberty in order that you may enjoy a social order which makes your liberty a reality. Just like it has been said earlier, that one's liberty is not possible if the liberties of everyone is not secured. Okay, so your liberty, the liberty of that old woman, the liberty of this person who is driving in a car, it becomes true, it becomes a reality only when you are ready to submit yourself to a curtailment of your private liberty. Okay, you have to cut down, you have to restrict, you have to sacrifice. Curtailment means reduction or sacrifice. You must be ready to sacrifice some amount of your personal liberty or private liberty, so that, why? There is a reason behind it, so that you are able to enjoy social order. It is social order. If there is social order, only then every person in this society will enjoy liberty in the real sense of the term. Now, the author goes on to describe what is liberty. Liberty is not a personal affair but a social contract. Very, very important line. You may highlight this line. This line states that liberty is not something personal. It is not a personal asset. It's not a private property. But it is a social contract. What is a social contract? If you notice the points here, the social contract is an agreement through which each person enters into civil society. When you decide that you are a participant or you want to be a member of a civil, polite society, you agree to follow certain rules and you make an agreement. It is not a written agreement, it is an unseen agreement. You become mentally prepared that you are going to follow certain set of rules. Now, this contract, it binds people into a community that exists for mutual preservation. Mutual preservation. What is the meaning of mutual preservation? Preservation means security of one and all. Mutual security, that means. Okay. So, In a way, once you enter this contract, you also ensure that the mutual security of one and all, that is also preserved, that is kept intact. And for this, we sacrifice physical freedom to gain civil freedom. Okay, certain rights we agree to sacrifice that. Certain things we, though we have the liberty to do certain things, we agree to cut down on those liberties so that we are able to enjoy civil freedom, general freedom, the freedom of existence in society, the freedom of rational thought. Man is a social being. He cannot stay like apes or monkeys or animals in the wild. He has to stay in a society. And so, while staying, when you decide, the moment you decide you are a part of you want to live in a society, you also sign an unseen pact. And the pact is with every member of the society, where it states that every member, including you, is going to curtail, is going to sacrifice some amount of his private freedom for the social order to exist. Okay, so this is why the author is saying that liberty is not a personal affair but a social contract. It is an accommodation of interest. It is an adjustment of interest. It is an accommodation of interest. Both are similar. Okay, accommodation or adjustment in matters which do not touch anyone else's liberty. Of course, I may be as free as I like. If I choose to go down the Strand in a dressing gown, with long hair and bare feet, who shall say me nay? Nay means no. You have the liberty to laugh at me, but I have the liberty to be indifferent to you. And which, heaven forbid, or wearing a tall hat, frock coat, and sandals, or going to bed late or getting up early, I shall follow my fancy and ask no man's permission. There is a difference again. It depends on what kind of actions we are doing. There are certain actions which directly involve the society, just like the crossing of the road or using the road, because the road is not my private property. There are other people beside me. I have to think about them. But there are certain choices, there are certain actions where I can have complete access to my freedom. I can use the maximum freedom I have. Just like, for example, hairstyle, dressing up, food and drinking habits. Okay, in matters like, suppose I decide to, the author writes that if I chose to go down the Strand is actually a fashionable street in London. It's known for its colorful amalgamation of people. Okay, fashionable, very high class porch, you can call it. It's a porch area in London. And suppose in that area, this person, the author, he chooses to go out just wearing the dressing gown in a bathrobe, which is not actually something that you like to go out in public. Suppose I go out in the Strand wearing the dressing gown with my hair open up long, without wearing any shoe or slipper. There is not a single person who would stop me from doing that. No one has the right to stop me. I may wear whatever I like. I may dress up in whatever matter, and I may or may not use slippers and shoes, but no one has the right to stop me from doing that. Yes, you have the liberty to laugh at me. You are free, so you can laugh. But I also have another liberty to be indifferent. I don't mind people like you. I may wear a tall hat, frock coat, sandals. I may have odd behaviors like going to bed late or getting up early. I shall follow my fancy. I shall do whatever I like as far as fashion is concerned, as far as my habits are concerned, personal habits, because they are not going to affect you. Nowadays, you might have noticed all these odd fashion senses. Strange way of get up, strange way of dyeing the hair, blue, pink, and odd colors. Boys, keeping hairstyle just like the girls behaving as though they are boys, people wearing shoes of two different colors, one, the right leg and the left leg, that would be totally different, odd styles. But then, will the society be affected anyway? Is it going to hamper, or is it going to cause any confusion, any trouble, just like this old woman who was trying to cross the road? No. So, in a way, one can understand that there are some individual acts of liberty which do not interfere with social order. As such, it does not lead to anarchy. Just as I have mentioned, dressing up, hairstyle, food habits. You may choose to eat whatever you like. You may choose to eat veg or non-veg. You may choose to eat rice and dal or maybe chicken. You might love South Indian dishes or Chinese. Nobody is going to stop you from doing that. You might choose to be a tomboy, or you might choose to behave like a girl. You might love to keep long hair or keep your hair bald. Nobody is going to question you, because this is your right, and your right in doing so, this right is not going to change, or it's not going to cause chaos in the social order. It is not going to interfere public interest, right? So, though it is said that liberty is not in complete access to liberty, there are certain actions, there are certain choices where individual have complete access to freedom, complete access to liberty, because there are certain actions which do not interfere, which do not harm social order. But as I have told you earlier, as the author had told you, individual liberty sometimes also become social anarchy. So this will be discussing in my next class. So in today's class, what are the things that we have come to learn? What are the flashpoints of today's lecture? First thing, that liberty is crucial to social living, and any person living in society, he must have liberty, because liberty is our birthright. Secondly, that individual liberty can sometimes lead to social anarchy. Just like the old woman, the author has given us a very brilliant example of how individual liberty can lead to social anarchy. Here I must mention you one more thing, that our author, he constantly gives up example, shows up, he suggests, or rather he discusses certain examples in order to highlight or stress on this idea of the liberty. Right? So first example that we got is that of this old woman who was trying to cross or trying to walk down the middle of the street in busy traffic in a place called Petrograd. So in a way, she was leading to social anarchy. Anarchy, again I told you, what is anarchy? It is lawlessness, a state of lawlessness where nobody cares about law. third thing that comes to our mind or that has been discussed in this part is that liberty is not a personal asset, it is not a private property. And as such, what is liberty? Liberty is a social contract. When we decide to stay in society, we also sign an agreement that I have my share of individual liberty without harming other share of individual liberty. Okay, so it is a contract, though it is not in black and blue, yet it is an unseen contract that we enter the moment we decide that we are the part of a greater society. Then rules. What does the author tell us about rules? Rules ensure the preservation of liberty and social order. Just like rules are necessary in traffic or on road, rules are necessary in our life, social living as such. And last, we came to know that not all forms of liberty is a hindrance to social order. There are certain actions, there are certain spaces, certain scopes where we can have complete access, complete use of our liberty. Because in things like fashion or clothing or dressing or eating habits, our liberty does not offer any kind of problem, any hindrance to other person's use of liberty, right? So next part we will come to in my next class. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you like this video so that I can go for live classes in YouTube. Thank you very much.